hello my friends, Danny here. How are you? Thanks for joining me for video number 2 about creative deals, creative financing, creative opportunities, which is something that we have been doing a lot more the past year or so, just because we want to make sure we are accessing more interesting opportunities, interesting in equity-wise, interesting cash flow-wise, etc. In this video, I'm going to talk about some twists in the plot, and I will tell you what that means. This is video number 2. Video number 1 was on the subject to matter. Video number 3 will be on VA loan assumption. Stay tuned for video number 3 as well. What do I mean by twist in the plot here? So there's 2 things that we are encountering. I'm sure there's going to be many more, but there's 2 things that could happen, right? Could happen in some of the deals we are looking at. And that is 2 unrelated things that could happen, both or one of them. And it has nothing to do with the subject to, and has nothing to do directly to the VA loan assumption. Number 1 is seller leaseback. Right? What is a seller leaseback? It's kind of simple. We see more sellers that are willing to sell us their houses, right? It's not a very common situation, but I'm actually doing deal number 3 that is something like that. And the seller is leasing back, signing a lease to lease the property back from me as my tenant. A minute ago, seller, now the tenant, for a period of X months, right? I have one deal that I did recently where the seller listed back for 2 years, right? Signed lease for 2 years. And I have another deal that I'm under contract where the seller wants to list it back from me for 9 months, right? This is just things that are happening. So here's an example. Those are examples of seller leaseback. To keep it simple, the seller leaseback means I'm going to sign a lease with the seller from day one. So one day they're owner, the next day they sold the house, but they're staying in the property and leasing it back, paying rent, etc. Why is it happening? Well, it does happen when sometimes sellers either want to stay in that environment area for a while. Maybe they have kids in school, maybe they want to sell in order to be able to start looking to buy their own home. Whatever the reason is, they're listing it back. It could be even 2 to 3 months, right? I'm talking about that, 2 to 3 months is something that we see more frequent. I'm talking about more lengthy periods of a year or 2. You don't have to do it, of course, but some of the deals we are working on, this is something that comes into as part of the package of the transaction. So why am I talking about this leaseback idea? Just because this is I see more of those creative deals, that this is another component, another layer or part of the package, and it kind of stitched together. It doesn't have to be stitched together, but sometimes when you work with a seller and say, hey, we can buy the house and let you stay, and I'll talk about the next thing, which is the option to buy, it all kind of bundles up in a way to get to more sellers and to get to better deals, right? Does it have to be the case? Not at all. In the first video, I told you about a house I bought as a subject to. The seller, I took over the mortgage, but the seller moved on and she did not list this house. The second thing I want to talk about is the option to buy, right? The buyback option. What is the buyback option? That means the seller, unrelated now to the lease, unrelated to the financing, wants an option to buy their house, that's the way they perceive it, in a set period of time, let's say within 2 years, for a set price. Let's just say $50,000, $60,000 more than what I paid for it when I purchased it, or you paid for it when you purchase it. The option has very clear dates when it starts, when it ends, when the option person, the buyer, the tenant at the moment, when he needs to give a notice that he's executing the option or not executing the option, and terms under which the option may be revoked or invoked if the seller tenant now is not keeping up, holding their end of the bargain with the lease. So I'll give you an example. I recently bought a house in significantly below market value with the seller listing it back for 2 years and signing an option to buy it within 2 years for $60,000 more than what I paid for it. As soon as, the lease and the option states that if he gets evicted, if he's late on the rent, and or abandons the property, that property, that option is canceled, right? He cannot use or exercise the option. It so happened that this tenant very quickly, right after closing, did not pay the rent. I'm going through an eviction process now, which just got started, and he lost his option privileges. He may not be evicted should he pay everything on time, but he already lost the option privileges. Why would someone do that setting? It's very clear, or as much as I understand, the seller was in some financial distress, wanted to stay in his house, wanted to keep sending his kids to school, didn't want to leave the house that is a house, wanted 2 years to get his act together financially and come back and buy it within 2 years for a set price. It seems like that's not going to happen right now, but this is just to illustrate how those things happen. I'm completely okay with the fact that he's probably going to be, it seems like he's going to be evicted, and I'm completely okay with the fact that he's not going to be buying the house back for me just because I want to keep it, and there's a lot of equity on the table for me to keep. So this is another way of creative deals, creative opportunities. If you ask yourself, why would I want to bother with something like this? The simple answer is you don't have to, right? The more full answer is doing those kind of deals gives us access to higher equity, higher cash flow, a little bit more stability setting, or less vacancy, assuming there's no eviction taking place. In other words, this is next level complexity and upside, right? Complexity and upside. It is not something that I would suggest for all investors, especially not the beginners. But those of you who are open, have been around deals long enough to understand the risk and the challenges, and are willing to take those complexities, seeing the upside, understanding the complexities, definitely can do that. By the way, any one of those houses that I just told you about and others are houses that I am using Resi, R-E-S-I, Resi, our new ecosystem for owner hybrid self-management platform, right? So I'll talk about that in another video. I just want to give you the setting of those situations or scenarios. This is video number 2 out of the 3. Video number 1 was on the subject 2. Video number 2 on the twist in the plot of leaseback and option to buy or buyback option. And video number 3, right now, I'll talk about the VA loan assumption. See you in the next video. And of course, remember, if you have not done so already, subscribe to our channels. It does help us to have better SEO and better attention. So that will be much appreciated. And you're always welcome to get in touch with us to learn more about this or any of the other topics I'm normally covering. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.